Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make zucchini bread, and this is what it looks like. This bread has a really nice moist texture and it's so flavorful. Besides the grated zucchini, we have some grated apple, we have some chopped nuts, we have some dried coconut and ground cinnamon, nutmeg, and really good on its own, but today we are also going to top it with a cream cheese frosting. So the first thing that you will need to do is to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. And then you will need a loaf pan. Now mine is 9 by 5 by 3 inches deep, so 23 by 13 by 8 centimeters. And you can butter the inside of your pan, or today I'm just going to spray it with one of these non-stick sprays. And then what I like to do to make doubly sure it doesn't stick to the bottom is just put a little piece of parchment paper. You don't have to, but kind of an extra step I like to do. So the first thing is you will need a half a cup, which is 50 grams of either, I'm using pecans today. Walnuts is another good choice. Now, you don't have to toast your nuts. You can put them in your batter raw, but toasting brings out the really nice flavor. So just put them on baking sheet, put them in the oven for about 8 minutes, just until you start to smell your nuts, and then let them cool and coarsely chop. I've done that ahead of time. So, like I said, if you prefer them just raw, you can just do that as well. So now, for our batter, if you have a stand mixer like I have here, use your paddle attachment. You could use a hand mixer, or really you can make this by hand. Now, the first thing you will need is 2 large eggs. That would be 100 grams. Have your eggs at room temperature. 1 cup, 200 grams of granulated white sugar. I'm adding 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of pure vanilla extract for flavoring. So if you don't want the vanilla flavor, you can just leave that out. And then for our fat, we're using a half a cup, 120 milliliters, 120 grams of a flavorless oil. So that could be a vegetable, a corn, a canola, or even a safflower oil. And just put that in there. What I like about using oil instead of, say, melted butter, okay, you don't have the flavor of the melted butter, but the good thing is about oil is it really gives the bread a nice moist texture. And also, if you want to store it in the refrigerator, it keeps it soft. You know, butter tends to firm up in the fridge if it's in, you know, any baked good, but oil, it keeps it soft. So now I'm just going to beat this on medium speed just until everything gets blended. So, you know, maybe a minute. Okay, so that was easy enough. So you can obviously do that by hand. Now, next, zucchini bread. We need zucchini. So you will need 1 cup, which is 135 grams of grated zucchini. And I've already done that. So you can grate your zucchini if you're lucky enough to have a food processor and you have those discs. You can use the shredded disc, makes it really easy, or a box grater. I would use the largest holes to grate your, because you want to kind of shred it if you can. So use that. So you will need about this size. Also, a zucchini is also known as a courgette. So for those people in other countries that don't call it zucchini, so this is about this size. That's about a half a pound, 225 grams. And make sure you wash it, cut off the ends, and don't peel it. Because if you see here, we want that nice, the outside dark green, the skin, we want that in our bread. So we're going to just dump that in. And zucchini, if you know, it doesn't have that much flavor. It's quite delicate, but it adds a lot of moisture to our bread. And we are also going to add a half a cup, 60 grams of grated apple. Now you want to use a firm textured apple. I used a Granny Smith, but you know, like a Honey Crisp, a Braeburn, something like that. Wash your apple and then peel it and then grate it. Again, I use the large part of my box grater. So you will need just one large apple for that. You know, if you didn't want to add apple, you could also add an equal amount, a half a cup of crushed pineapple. Again, the apple, like the zucchini, is going to add nice moist texture to our bread. So I'm just going to beat that in. Okay, that was easy enough. So now for our dry ingredients, in a separate bowl, I have 1.5 cups, which is 195 grams of all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. And to that, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon, 1 gram of baking powder. I'm adding 1/4 teaspoon, 1 gram of salt. I like to add ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon. If you don't like cinnamon, you can leave it out. If you really like cinnamon, you could add a little more. And 1/4 teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg. And that's a nutmeg. And I just use my microplane. You could use the smaller part, grate part of your box grater to do that. Or you can just leave it out if you don't want the nutmeg. And we're going to whisk that in. You know, this recipe, if you've ever made a carrot cake, it may, you know, you may think, gee, this kind of looks familiar. And a zucchini bread or a zucchini cake and carrot cakes were both invented in around the 1960s when it was really kind of the trend to use vegetables in our baked goods. They kind of said it was healthy. I'll leave that up to you whether you think this is healthy or not, but it's good. So I'm going to I whisk that, and then I'm going to put that right in there. Along with our nuts, 1/2 cup, 50 grams of chopped nuts. And I'm also going to add some dried coconut, 1/2 cup, 25 grams of dried coconut. Now you can use sweetened or unsweetened. I'm using unsweetened here. And you can use shredded or flaked. Up to you and what you have in the house. Or if you don't like coconut, some people don't, you can just leave it out. You could add some other things, some dried fruits, chocolate chips. Okay, I'm just going to beat that in. Okay, that was easy enough. Now this bread freezes really well. So if you grow your own zucchini, then, you can make several loaves and freeze them. Since this really only uses 1 zucchini, and if you have lots in your garden, you might want to make lots of these breads. Give them to your neighbors. So now just pour it into your loaf pan. And smooth the top. Okay, so for baking, everyone's oven is a little different. I find about an hour, say 60, 65 minutes. I do like to rotate my pan front to back about halfway through baking so it's more even. And it will rise, it'll turn a beautiful golden brown, and a toothpick, insert it into the center, will come out clean. You will probably get some cracking along the top. Perfectly normal. So I'm going to say 60, 65 minutes. Okay, so our zucchini bread is done. You can see it's risen. Put a toothpick into the center, came out clean. So put your pan on a wire rack. I'm going to let it cool for about 15 minutes. And then when we come back, I'll take it out of the pan. To remove the zucchini bread from the pan, first what I like to do is take a flat edge, knife or an offset spatula, and just run it along the inside just to make sure it's not sticking. And then, so, should come right out, and peel the parchment off and then flip it over right side up. Now, we're going to let it cool. You do not have to frost this zucchini bread. It is really good on its own, but sometimes, you want to dress it up with the frosting. So I'm going to let this cool down completely, and then when we come back, we will make our cream cheese frosting. So for our cream cheese frosting, if you have a stand mixer, use your paddle attachment. You could use a hand mixer, or really you could even make this by hand. The first things you will need is 4 tablespoons, 55 grams of butter. You can use salted or unsalted. Have it at room temperature, along with 4 ounces, 115 grams of your regular, full fat cream cheese, and have that at room temperature. And put those both in here. And then I'm going to beat this on medium-low speed. I want to mix the two together. Plus, I want it to be nice and smooth, no lumps. Okay, that looks good. So next you will need 1/3 cup, 40 grams of confectioner sugar. You may also know that as powdered or icing sugar. That right in there. And I like to flavor it also with 1/2 teaspoon, 2 grams of pure vanilla extract. And now I'm just going to beat those on medium, medium-low speed, just until everything gets mixed together. Okay, so we're good. So, a quick stir. So like I said at the beginning, you really do not need to frost this bread. It's really good on its own. And what you will find, the day you make it, the outside crust will be quite crisp, and then inside will be wonderfully soft and moist. But if you cover it and store it overnight, that outside crust will soften. But today we are going to put on cream cheese frosting. Now, I just usually put it right on the top of the bread, but there's enough frosting here if you want to, cover the whole thing, even the sides. Whatever you think looks best. And just spread it out. Now, if you put the cream cheese frosting on your bread, you will have to store it in the refrigerator. But like I said, because it's got oil in it, it won't get really hard. It'll still be nice and moist and soft. And I like it cold or at room temperature. I'm not picky that way. And I'm just putting the cream cheese frosting on. You could also then garnish with, maybe some more coconuts, some chopped nuts, if you wanted to. But I think it looks nice just with that cream cheese frosting. And like a carrot cake, carrot cake, cream cheese frosting, zucchini bread, cream cheese frosting. Okay, that looks good. So now, that is our zucchini bread with cream cheese frosting. If you want, you can put that into the refrigerator and get that frosting a little firm, but I'm going to cut it right now. Sharp knife, cut a slice. You can see that? Doesn't that look nice? I think it looks so colorful. You can see the nuts, you can see the green from the zucchini because having that peel. That's why I like to leave the outside peel on. I think it looks nice, and plus it tastes fine. So I'm just going to turn that and cut a piece. Sorry, gotta chew. um, it is a really flavorful bread. I like the first day, that crust is quite crisp, which is very nice. And then inside, the bread is so moist and soft. And so flavorful, like I said, the nuts, the zucchini, the apples, the coconut. You know, there's a lot going on. And it really makes a nice bread, flavorful bread. But of course, that cream cheese frosting on the top just tops it off really perfectly to me. I really like that. So you must try this one. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.